kung pag-uusapan natin ngayon ang korupsyon in the context of the 3 points, sabi mo, hindi naman pwedeng mangyari ito na ito lang, the president, media, acts of God. Ano pang kailangan?
Kailangan ng sistema
Okay.
where good is rewarded and bad is punished.
Okay, let's go to the president. Kasi ang presidente ngayon, nakikita ng effort ng sambayanan, yung kanyang sumbong sa Pangulo. Okay, nariyan. So, it looks like the president is determined, you know, to address ang SONA. I think that was one of the best parts of his SONA nung he went into specifics. Very few SONAs by different presidents have gone into that direction. 15, 100 plus billion ang napunta sa kanila. Dapat tingnan natin ito. So, kung minention yan ng presidente, dapat ay inaasahan namin ng bayan na, Mr. President, dapat huwag mo tantanan yan, huwag mo bitawan yan, hanggat hindi nalalaman ng taong bayan kung bakit. Kung bakit 15 yan. Magandang paliwanag na ang iba, 60 plus ang mga proyekto, baka magaling o baka malakas. I mean, dalawa lang ang kalalabasan yan. But what we know is it shouldn't stop. Number 2, ang media lang, katulad halimbawa ng pork barrel noon, an Inquirer, walang talagang unrelenting yon. Ang problema lang ngayon is napakalawak na, no? May new media ka, may traditional media ka.
But everyone's on the flood control.
Everyone is on the flood
control. Hindi
control.
mangyari yan.
Oo, but mas malleable. Mas malleable lang ngayon. Hindi katulad noon that the focus halimbawa ng Inquirer, Philippine Star, at sabihin na natin Bulletin, the major dailies during that time. Ngayon, ang problema is mauumay ka eh. Kasi sobrang dami, no? Sobrang dami. So, at walang kumukumpas. Kumukumpas, meaning hindi kumpas na masama. Kumpas na ito ang direksyon. It can easily be infiltrated. In other words, it can be infiltrated. But having said that, pupunta ako doon sa pangatlo na acts of God. Magdadasal na lang tayong lahat. And of course, maybe, active citizenry.
Yes.
Pero, naniniwala ko doon sa
Dito may pagka-act of God. Kasi kung titignan mo yung rainfall at titignan mo yung ibang bansa, grabe din ang baha. Kaya lang, sa ibang bansa, let's say sa Hong Kong, walang nagsasabing dinaya ang flood control kasi bantay nila lahat. Sa atin, it's partly because of massive urbanization, partly because we built on where we're not supposed to build, partly sobra yung rainfall, pero malaki din yung part ng dinaya yung mga ano. So, may part of act of God din to.
Correct.
Na yung sobrang ulan, pampagising na rin sa atin.
Hindi, kasi ang inaasahan natin, sana, merong, kumbaga sa kwento, may the end ito. Hindi lang, I love the point about not just being case closed, but case solved.
Yes.
Na kailangan...
And it has to be comprehensive, Kuya Boy. Kasi I'm sure tatapusin ng presidente to. Unang-una may 3 years pa siya, di ba? Tapos sinimulan niya na eh. So, tingin ko itutuloy niya yan. One way or the other.
And I think the conversation should continue.
But ang problema, yung mga corrupt, lilipat lang yan. Whether sa agriculture, whether sa health, whether sa BIR, whether sa customs. So pag hindi
Because
natin...
the system allows it.
Kasi wala tayong sistema talaga na may integrity na pag ikaw gumawa ng mali, di ba, paparusahan ka. Di ba? So, here, very, very few.
At markado ka.
Markado
dapat.
ka.
Oo. Na hindi ka pwede lumipat. Dito ko sa flood control, okay, natatapos ang investigasyon, pero pwede ka pumasok dito sa rice.
I forgot to say it recently na ang Pinoy, pag nabaitan, yun ang tinitignan. So kahit sabi mo, ang bait-bait niyan, hindi, corrupt yan. Hindi mabait eh. Kasi namimigay, etc. Di ba?
That's tolerance.
Tolerance.
Di ba?
Or yung emotion din. Kasi our strength, Kuya Boy, as a people, we're emotional eh. That's why we're so hospitable, we're so loving.
That's a weakness and a strength at the same time.
It's a weakness because we're so forgiving. So napansin ko sa DFA yun. Bakit? Ang Korea, maganda relationship sa Japan. Ang China, medyo ganon. Pero both the museums and the politics in Korea and China changes when you talk about comfort women and the atrocities of Japan sa bansa. Tayo lang ang bansa na niyakap na talaga natin as brothers and sisters in Japan, which is good because they're helping us left and right, di ba? But some are saying, no, ang problema sa short memory na yan, ganyan din ginagawa nyo sa mga may mali sa gobyerno. So whether yan ay kumpanya, let's not talk about politicians, let's talk about scammers. Walang tigil ang scam sa Pilipinas. Paulit-ulit yan. Di ba? Or isabong. We already saw the evils of Isabong. We saw the evils of Pogo. O nilipat lang natin ngayon dito sa online gaming. So, we're so forgiving and tolerant and we keep saying na parang baka this time around it will work. Kasi nga, like halimbawa in love, Kuya Boy, marami kasing love is better the second, third time around. Maraming forgiving, but that's a different factor. When you have love a second time around, you correct your mistakes. That's why your relationship works, di ba? Pero kung na-addict ang tao sa isabong at may masasamang nangyari, what do you think na kung whether scatter yan or online whatever, why do you think it will work this time? Kung yung corruption sa agriculture mali, why do you think pag corruption sa DPWH okay lang yun?
Okay. May elemento din kasi ng relihiyon. And I apologize to say this kasi tinuturuan tayo na virtue talaga ang pagpapatawad. Meron kang short memory at saka you give people another chance, di ba? So, but bringing back the discussion to corruption, paulit-ulit lang, yung sinasabi nga nating cycle, hindi talaga siya natatapos.
And every administration had their share of scandals.
Lahat. Hindi tayo pwede maglinis-linisan.
Even the good administrations.
The good administrations. Pero having said that, Alan, having discussed itong cycle nga ng pangungurakot, na alam naman nating lahat, we don't even have to have a book on how corruption is done in this country, from the smallest kind of corruption to the biggest kinds of corruption. Saan, sa iyong pananaw, saan dapat umpisahan?
I'll take a page out of the book of 3 books. 1, the Bible. Number 2, yung libro ni Lee Kuan Yew na From Third
First
World to First. And third, yung sinasabi mo parate na kay Nelson Mandela. Okay. First, sa Bible. Very clear sa Bible. It's not enough to do good. You have to punish the evil.
Okay.
Pag walang punishment ng evil, or if people doing good and doing evil, pareho lang yan. Di ba? One day, good and evil are just equal or parallel. So, light and darkness are different things. Hindi
There should be punishment.
There should be punishment.
Hinto tayo doon. Pupuntahan ko lang. Kasi dito sa ating bayan, ang dami nang nakulong ha. Palagay mo ba, itong mga nakita ng sambayanan, nagmarka yan? Natakot ba ang mga tao na magiging ganito ako?
Okay. Ang science ngayon sa criminology, it's not the penalty, but the certainty na mahuhuli ka at mapapurusahan ka. So, ang tingin natin, kasi nag-umpisa yan nung may death penalty si former President Marcos, Ferdinand Marcos Sr., tapos talagang nawala yung drugs for a while. Di ba? If you remember that, di ba?
Right.
Okay. And then, ginawa din ni President Erap yan, di ba? Nagbotohan pa, is it Echegaray, no? Mr. Echegaray?
Echegaray, oo.
Di ba na, should we impose the death penalty nga? Para nga mawala, di ba? So, in a way, pag nag-sample ka lang ng isa, may takot yan. So, nung nakulong yung former presidents, nakulong yung ibang mga senador. But, there's no certainty kasi na lahat mahuli. So, it's not only how high yung ikukulong mo. There has to be consistency. So kung 1,000 yung nagnakaw, dapat 1,000 yung nakulong.
But that would require
No, so I'm not saying
massive political will.
Let me give you an example, di ba? Nung inoperate na yung camera sa EDSA, tapos naghulihan na, di ba lahat ngayon sumusunod na sa traffic? Pero bago doon, pati yung sistema na may cameras, ayaw nung iba. Di ba?
The discussion that I want to go into is, kasi madalas sinasabi, halimbawa sa drug war, no? Sinasample lang naman nila, yung mga runners lang, yung mga maliliit. Dapat, kinukulong nila yung mga big time,
Yung
etc.
drugs, medyo,
Yeah, I know. It's
medyo, all around the world, it's a challenge. Except
Yes.
siguro Singapore, but sasabihin nila, maliit. But, yung crime kasi, Kuya Boy, whether it's the mafia in the US, whether it's the Yakuza in Japan, ano yung sa Hong Kong noon na triad 14 cases, there's been success over the di ba, the years anti-scam center in Singapore, about 600 million Singapore dollars is recovered every year. The Singaporean government in a matter of hours can stop payment or bank as Hong Kong has an anti-deception center. Same. Both centers, bangko, telco, police, magkasama sa isang building. So, may mga...
But would something like that work in the Philippines?
It should, and DICT and we talked about General Torre. Nakita ko yung ilan sample nung 5 minutes nandun na. It's not perfect, but we're getting there, ha? Body cams, matagal na pala may body cam ang police, hindi natin ginagamit. Kung ginamit natin during the drug war, then it probably would have been different. No, but, Kuya Boy, let me go to the number 2 and just relate it with
Okay.
number 1, ha? The Bible, punish evil, hindi lang do good. Okay. Kay Lee Kuan Yew, marami sa hindi niya masosolve kagad, pinasok niya sa DepEd. So, for example, Kuya Boy, no? Marami sa Singaporean na Chinese Singaporean, ayaw sa police o militar kasi mababatingin. Saan niya nilagay yun? Sa DepEd. Sabi niya, you have 10 years to change attitude. After 10 years, sumasali na, so na-integrate na sila. And that helped against racial, not only racial
Tension.
tension and fighting. Keeping Singapore clean, walang chewing gum, cleaning that. There was a component of cleanup, there was a component of discipline. Lahat ng hawkers, lilinisin ko kayo, may kuryente, tubig. But there was a big component in the DepEd. Ikaw nagturo sa akin yung kanyang national courtesy campaign, di ba? So, they wanted tourism, they wanted to change their attitude, etc. Ganyan. There was an actual campaign na if you launch a national courtesy campaign, sabihin sa Pilipinas, dami nating problema, yan ba? Di ba? Okay. So,
He wanted to be global.
yes, so for me, Kuya Boy, values have to change.
Of course.
And I still remember,
At doable dito yan.
siguro to be fair sa mga taga Palawan, I don't know now. But I remember for about a 10-year period, yung super linis, and then pag nagtapon ka, bata pa ang lalapit sa'yo, sasabihin sa'yo, excuse me sir, dito sa Palawan, hindi kami. Kasi values na-ingrain Di ba? Ang problema, dahil we're so many islands at iba-iba yung
Archipelagic
subcultures
tayo.
natin, and then kung ano napapanood mo sa TV at SOCMED, ginagaya kahit masama. Tapos ang problema pa sa maraming highly urbanized, half day ka lang sa DepEd. But I think, it should be, the younger we are, tapos inaano na, eto tama, eto mali. There are certain things that are relative, di ba? But there are certain things na, I was saying, Kuya Boy, di ba, na sa analog, sa buhay natin araw-araw, klaro kung anong bastos. Kahit sabihin mo pare, pasensya ka na, mainit ulo nun. Pero klaro kung bastos yon. Pero sa Facebook mo, ang dami mong sinasabi, kabastos. Ang dami mong pinapakita, ang dami mong, kaya lang, yun hindi bastos. So, sa bata ngayon, may digital Alan, may analog Alan. Sa analog Alan, kailangan magalang ka. Pero sa digital, iba din. So, nakaka-confuse yun. Di ba? Yung identity natin. Yung pangatlo lang, Kuya Boy, ikaw nagsabi kanina yung sinabi mo about character. It's not a revolution of government.
Yes.
It's a revolution of character.
Yes.
So, I'll repeat that. If this was Alan circa 98 or 2007, first-term congressman, I really believe that there has to be a evolution or revolution in government. Kailangan talagang may point ka, tapos stricto na lahat.
Naniniwala ka na itong revolution na ito, halimbawa, kung isa sa katuparan dito sa Pilipinas, ay pwedeng mag-umpisa sa maraming points, edukasyon, simbahan, leadership in government? I mean, ganun ba ang...
Baliktad, hindi maaari. Hindi pwedeng hindi.
Hindi.
Kasi ang kultura, Kuya Boy, hindi isang node lang So, entertainment, news, government, business, church,
media,
family, health, education, kailangan all of that, science and technology, that has to work together towards the culture we want.
Kasi malala na ang situation
Yes.
Malala na ito
But yun nga ang point ko, Kuya Boy. If I can go back to the 27-year-old Alan Cayetano in Congress, I would be more patient, more loving to both my country, of course, God and my people, and say na, mahaba to ha. May mga times na nandito ganyan, but mahabang labanan to para palitan yung kultura. Ang problema, the younger Alan wanted change right now, or revolution, or tanggalin yung presidente niya. People power ulit, people power 1, people power 2, people power 3. Then pag pumalit, disappointed tayo, ganun naman. Pag eleksyon, ang pag-asa natin, Boy Abunda. Ang pag-asa natin, si ganito, si ganyan. And then disappointed din tayo.
Is it possible for President Marcos at this point, I mean, who is the highest leader of the land, to say, okay, alam ko, 10 years, tingnan natin anong mangyayari, but we have to change. Is it possible?
No, he could do that to start. Ang problema yung sustainability. So, Kuya Boy, ang isang natutunan ko recently, Christians all over the world, whether Catholic, Evangelical, kung ano man, they will say, at kay Pastor Mark Belials ko natutunan to, whose passion is transforming nations.
Okay.
So, ang sabi niya, all around the world, Christian nations, ang strategy, share the gospel, dumami ang Christian, at pag dumami ang Christian, magbabago. Sabi niya, it doesn't work. He knows many countries where whether Catholic, Evangelicals, or both, dumami, pero minsan, pareho corruption, minsan sumama pa. Sabi niya, you know what, ang sagot niya, what I agree, sabi niya, kasi wala kayong strategy. So sabi niya, akala niyo ba si Lord Jesus, nung sinabi niyang, go out and make disciples, walang strategy? Hindi.
May strategiya.
Kaya the first 200 years of Christianity, kumalat. Di ba? So whatever it is, no? Whether it emanates from media, it emanates from the
But there has to be a strategy.
There has to be a national strategy for
At this point,
character revolution.
At this point, Alan, and we're talking about character revolution. Can the Senate start it?
I would think, Kuya Boy, it has to really be a national coalition.
Can the president actually initiate it?
The president,
now that he started to talk about...
Initiate, move, or accept. Kasi kung ako tatanungin mo, ang mga natural dyan, people who deal with values. So for example, religious community is one.
Okay.
Another one is halimbawa state universities or colleges, yung mga ano. I'm not talking politics.
No, but I agree.
I'm not talking politics. I'm not talking about nagkasundo Ateneo at saka resign. No. Nagkasundo ang Ateneo, UST, FEU, LaSalle. We will not tolerate cheating or will not tolerate stealing. But how do we do that? Kasi if it's just a political statement, di ba? Pero walang strategy, walang building. So, ganun din.
Ang napakaganda kasi, ang napapag-usapan natin ngayon, napakarami nating problema sa baba. May problema tayo sa attitudes, may problema tayo sa mga kinagisnang kaugalian, may mga problema tayo sa mga...
Disrespect sa parents.
And then napapag-usapan natin ang korupsyon. Babalik lang ako doon sa SONA because I was asking, sino bang pwede mag-umpisa nito? Can the president actually initiate it? No? And that's a tall...
In a way, he did.
No, it's a tall order. But now what's very attractive to me is when you said, we can actually start in schools, no? State colleges and universities. Imagine, kasi ang ano natin, we have to make a mark eh. Imagine halimbawa kung ang research mo, paano natin uumpisahan itong revolusyon ng character. Yeah. Ang ganda ng pinanggagalingan. Kasi
kanina lang, Kuya Boy,
mga bata at mga titser.
I had a late lunch with the new chairman of CHED. We were talking about many things. But she asked me, ikaw naman, Sen, anong tingin mo? Sabi ko, ma'am, ang daming kailangan. Diba? Whether it's more scholarship money, whether it's better facilities. But ma'am, tingin ko babalik tayo sa values. She agreed right away. And I think that was our common denominator. I think sa dami natin ng problema, yung basic na value. So, half day, may K-12 nga tayo, half day naman. May dagdag nga sweldo sa teachers, pero ang mga bata, nasa cellphone naman nakatingin, hindi naman nakafocus sa teachers at sa school, di ba? So, I think, just bringing back some of these issues sa values. Pero sa totoo lang, hindi ka mahe-headline kung ang tanong mo sa DPWH o sa 15 contractors, anong values nyo? Diba? But go back 30, 40 years ago, ang itatanong mo doon, hindi lang yung mahiya naman kayo. Ang itatanong mo doon, anong sasabihin ng magulang mo? Titignan mo yung last name nun, Huy, Cayetano. Di ka ba nahiya?
That's part of the strategy na sinasabi ng iyong kaibigan. Kasi, halimbawa, kung ang tanong mo doon sa 15 contractors ay strategic, na sa palagay niyo ba hindi kayo nagnanakaw? Sa palagay, it's an entirely different...
What I meant sa strategic,
no, I know.
If you have to investigate all of them, so for example, Kuya Boy, no? How long was it since after the SONA? Hanggang ngayon, ilan ang nasuspinde? Hanggang ngayon, senador pa ang nag-expose. Ilan mga senador? Hindi DPWH. So, I was telling the DPWH, hindi ba napakasimple yun? Kunin mo cellphone mo. 1 million peso project, 50 million project, 1 billion peso project. Sisimulan today. Kunin mo cellphone mo. Ayan ha, kalye. Ayan, graba pa yan. Kunan mo. 25%, kunan mo. 50%, kunan mo. 100% kunan mo. So, pag tinanong ng presidente, ilan dyan ang ghost? Sir, wala. Bakit? Sir, nakunan namin lahat eh. Di ba? So, nung araw, Kuya Boy, magkano gagastusin mo at yung Photoshop, etc. Pero ngayon, napakadali. Kaya nga dapat may billboard yon at nakalagay. Para supposedly, alam mo, etc. Pero pati nga yun, pinakita nga ng mga ilang senador at ibang mga investigative journalists, di ba na nagkakalukuhan dyan and everything. So dati, Kuya Boy, sa liit ng pondo, ang problema mo, makakuha ng dokumento, tinatago yan. Makakuha ng impormasyon. Ngayon, baliktad, Kuya Boy, nandyan yung impormasyon. Nandyan yung freedom na kunin mo. Nandyan yung bidding nasa internet. Ang problema, 1 trillion peso projects a year. Pwera pa LGU. Pwera pa yung ibang departamento. So, we're loaded with that. And, Kuya Boy, kung ikaw ay may 5 billion projects at ninakaw mo, let's say, kalahati, 2.5 billion, tingin mo ba sasabihin mo, guilty ka lang? O makiki-PR ka, makikigulo ka? And when I say PR ngayon, you don't even need to PR sa traditional media. You can have your own social media, then you can, para hindi tayo mapansin, pag-awayin muna natin si congressman ganito at si mayor ganito. Pag-awayin natin si senador ganyan at si senador ganyan. O subukan na natin na may ibang issue. So alam mo kung hindi bumahan ng malaki, baka hindi pa, i-tolerate pa natin ng... But, Kuya Boy, and sa mahal natin mga kababayan, take a look at the budget hearings, etc. This isn't new.
Yeah.
This been discussed. Even before I became speaker, if you remember, meron parang 100 billion na pinag-aawayan ng chairman ng appropriations ng House nung napalitan sila at si Secretary Jokno. Tapos dun pa lang lumabas na yung issue ng parking. So bawat name the administration, Cory Aquino, President Ramos, President Erap, President GMA, President Aquino Pinoy, President Duterte, hindi exempted yan. The question is, how do we deal with it? And paano maging long-term yung ano. So siguro the way
sustainable.
Sustainable. Diba? But siguro, Kuya Boy, yun ang idadagdag ko. Ang strategy na kailangan mo, may short-term, may medium, may long-term. Diba? So yung short-term, Kuya Boy nga, is yung makita na seryoso at mahulit talaga lahat yan. Going to your question, likha ba? I think, likha tayong hindi perfect. Pero it's more of our attitude of being tolerant than of our attitude of being corrupt. Kasi I think...
Yung short memory ba? Kasama dun?
Kasama yung short memory at pagiging forgiving.
Oo.
At yung short memory keeps getting shorter. I remember dati, like kami, panahon ni President Aquino, nag-number 1 pa rin si Senator Salonga.
Oo.
Samantalang the last election before martial law was 60s. But I remember a few years lang after Speaker Mitra ran for president, parang hindi na masyadong kilala. Dati, Kuya Boy, basta't walang skandalo yung senador na yon, just by having the name recall, hindi matatalo. But ngayon, bawat eleksyon may natatalo na senador kahit may recall. Diba? So, iba yung ngayon yung amount of information, not memory of the personal person, but as a group. Tapos, yun nga, yung ibang kasalanan ng iba, madaling kalimutan.
The national memory.
Minsan, going back to yung sinabi mo kay Senator Cheese, in our light moment, sinabi niya yun na, pare, kasi siya yung second youngest. Ako yung youngest nung 11th Congress. Tapos si Joel Villanueva, youngest nung 12th Congress, magkakasunod. At marami kaming pinagbayan together. So, yun sabi sa amin ni Senator Cheese nung bugbog siya one time na, pare, hindi ako perfecto, etc. Pero tignan mo na. At saka bakit nila titignan ngayon lang? Ang tagal ko na dyan eh. Ginagawa ko ba yung mga yan? Even Joel Villanueva, Kuya Boy, I remember kay Duterte time, nasa cabinet, nagko-complain siya. Sabi niya, sumasama yung bahasa, ang hinihingi ko lang, master plan. He's always been lobbying for a master plan, not for a project. First year ng Marcos administration, inaway niya si Secretary Bunoan. Sabi niya, naglabas kayo ng master plan, pinalitan nyo. Yung binayaran nyo, mali. Kung saan-saan nyo nilalagay sa Bulacan na hindi dapat doon. Siya nung 2022. Tapos suddenly, nung may issue sa insertion ngayon, suddenly projects na daw niya. So I feel the pain. Again, these are not people who are perfect.
Alam niyo ho ba na ang